Oh, good.
Sorry.
Just what I needed.
Oh, man.
We're the most professional.
We're the.
Oh, we're live.
Yep, we are
We're
live.
live.
All right. Hello, and welcome to what the hell month is it? September Livestream Player 4 podcast. Hello, I am Tristan, a.k.a. Chakra Seer, on the Rooster Teeth website.
I'm Alex, aka Chaos Black 21.
I'm Malachi, aka Suki Kiwa.
And I'm Joseph, a.k.a. Jay Dunlap, with our guest, our special guest. Very special.
Oh, is it? When do I say Austin Herring? That's me. I'm Austin.
Welcome, Austin
sorry,
Herring.
Austin.
Herring?
Herring, like the fish.
Like the fish. Are you also red? Are you a red herring? Should I not be paying attention?
My middle name is Reed, which I'm almost certain is not intentionally a reference.
You are Austin Reed Herring. So I'm misspelling. You are the Austin Red Herring.
Yeah.
This might be my favorite episode ever, just at this moment.
Yeah. Thanks.
You're welcome. So,
All right,
Austin, why have you been invited onto my beautiful podcast?
I assume that it's because I'm very. Oh man, I'm trying to think of a joke, and I'm not coming up with.
Well spoken.
I make this great art out of push pins and yellow sticky notes.
Okay, this I gotta see now. Can you make me a SpongeBob?
Well, yeah. I mean, the SpongeBob is like what they teach you in pushpin sticky note 101.
I only minored in pushpin, so I didn't actually get that far.
I didn't take any of the Post-it note classes.
Post-it note was a different discipline, okay?
I thought it was. Apparently, it can be combined. He dual majored.
Well, no, I didn't double major. I'm not that smart.
No, he did. He got the pushpins and the Post-it notes.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Combo,
No.
man.
Okay. In all seriousness,
We're gonna be what now?
the reason we had Austin, is because I had him on 5-question interviews, which we recorded earlier today. And if you're watching the archive of, this came out probably Friday on our channel. Austin is a co-creator, co-writer, co-director, and co-producer, or the head everything of Mana Screwed, which is a YouTube series about a Magic the Gathering player. In our interview, we talked about Mana Screwed. We talked about his involvement with Magic the Gathering. We talked about his love for League of Legends, and we talked about his love for D&D. And we're going to actually, at the end of the episode, save the D&D stories that he did not tell on the interview. But I did tell all of you guys about Mana Screwed, so most of you actually went and watched it. And Malachi is actually an avid Magic the Gathering player like myself. So I thought that these guys would want to talk about it.
I wouldn't go that far.
Contradiction. Fight.
You bought the
Yes,
EDH
yes.
deck, the Dragons, didn't you?
Oh my god, it's so sexy.
I have not gotten mine yet.
I touched it.
I want to. I'm excited. We're actually playing today for the channel. We're going to do an EDH game where each of us have one of those, one of the new EDH decks, and I don't know which one I'm going to get to play with. I know Connor has picked his favorite, and I'm pretty sure Brad has picked his favorite.
Well, based on when they were first released and what I've seen at the card shop at our local area, dragons were like slaughtered. Like everyone was all over that crap. And probably the next deck was the Cat Commander. He was the next well-liked one, followed by the Vampires, and the Wizards were the least favorited out of all of them.
Really?
Yes.
People just love dragons, man. Honestly, I would probably pick the cats, maybe, but also the wizards do look pretty cool. The vampires don't look that exciting to me.
There's a lot of cool mechanics in the wizard ones. Between me and my roommate, we have all 4 decks, and we've been playing them quite a bit against each other. The commander, the wizard commander itself isn't like blow your mind, but it has a lot of nifty things it can capitalize in its deck itself, and at least in my opinion. And there's a lot of crazy stuff it can do. Like it's all about copying and just controlling what's going on, of course, because it's a wizard deck.
Yeah, it seems fun. I'm excited to play with them.
You know, I felt like there was a missing tribe at my local store where I'm usually the head judge for the events and everything. So I live there on the weekends. We were talking about the EDH thing. They had a tournament when it first came out. They were like, man, Dragons is just so powerful. And I said, well, I mean, it does get beaten by the secret 5th tribe that's also 5-color. And they were like, what's that? They thought I was being serious, which is their mistake. And I was like, yeah, so next week they're going to come up with the secret 5th tribe, and it's going to beat Dragons into the ground. It's Slivers. And they were like, really? And I was like, no.
No,
Aunt Joseph.
no.
Why would that ever be a thing?
That's when someone in an EDH plays Fog.
That's like
Why
the
would that
worst
even be on
card.
deck?
All right. Okay, Austin. So speaking of, can we hear the origins of your Fog story, your Fog joke?
I honestly, that is one thing that I don't remember what the origins are. I know that it was in the script, but I don't think that it was ever intended to be that big of a joke. It was more just I wanted I wanted some stuff, and Brad certainly helped me in coming up with like, you know, what would a new EDH player, because I'm relatively new to EDH. I say relative. I've been playing for like a year maybe. And I didn't understand that you couldn't have prime time or whatever. I did know enough to know that Fog would not be good in EDH, but I don't know. It just seemed like, oh, okay, cool. I'll put Fog in. That's something a new player would do. And it's mostly, I think it's just Casey's performance and everybody else's reaction that turned it into, I feel like it's one of the best jokes in the series. And I knew, like, it's not like I was so surprised by the audience's reaction to it. Like, I knew looking at the footage, like, this is very funny, but I don't think it was ever planned to be that big of a joke until we were shooting it, and it just turned out really funny.
It really was his performance that sold it, because it is a mistake a lot of new players make. It's like, can you look at my Magic deck that I made, and you look through it, it's an aggro deck that has like 3 fogs in it, and you tell him, you know, get that out of there, just like Connor's like, get that out of the deck, get that out of the deck. But his performance, he actually made a better argument than I've ever heard, which is, you know, you swung with all your slivers and I just shut down your whole operation. Usually they're just like, yeah, you know, if I get behind, I'm like, well, what if you're ahead, you know? So he actually presented a really good argument, and their counter argument by token was actually weaker in comparison. Of course, that was just a great episode overall for banter, such as the Pathfinder joke that you threw in there.
Thank you.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, that whole episode, I was trying to like really capture, and a lot of it, again, I want to give credit to Brad and Casey and Connor in particular there, because what I wrote was for that episode was just this, like, you know, people going back and forth, relatively realistic to what people are saying, and they turned it into this giant argument that it really kind of wasn't on the page. I mean, they said all of the lines that were in the script and ad-libbed a little bit, not too crazy much off the page, but the amount of like intensity that they treated this really simple scene, I think, is what made it into. But at the same time, like, you can tell they're always smiling and laughing, and that, I think that captures a real EDH game, kind of. It's mostly just yelling at each other in a way that nobody's actually getting mad about, or sometimes are really getting mad about. But
well, maybe most people's stores aren't like this, and by that I mean most of them are. At my local store, when they play EDH, if you were just listening to them, you'd be like, these guys hate each other, and you look at them and they're smiling while they're insulting each other.
Exactly.
And that, in essence, is Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
Unless you're my friend, my roommate.
No.
You're referring to me.
Oh, okay. I thought you were just spit in general.
No, because his deck, there was one deck that I actually purely hated him when he played it. Because it's like, it's one of the comments, someone else I know made a comment. It's like, yeah, I came to play the game, not watch you play, because he had one that was, I forget the commander. I believe it was the one that whenever she attacks, she can cast spells for free. And he would end up getting 12 turns in a row.
Mean.
Yeah.
Brad used to have this deck, and he has dismantled it since then because it was not fun for people to play against him. but it was almost exclusively counterspells until he won. I was just like, why? I don't want to play against that. Like, this isn't fun. Everything that I do gets counterspelled. My commander costs like 45 now. And then you're going to go off and win. Congratulations.
Yeah, there's always that one guy at your store that every time they win a commander game, one of their commander decks gets banned from their play group. And it's like, well, I play this and I play this and play this, but they're all banned from the play groups, and I have to make a new deck.
Yeah.
So actually, for me, when we talk about funny stuff, I actually like to joke in the beginning with his brother-in-law. I forgot his name. Was
it Garrett?
Garrett.
Is it Garrett?
Yes.
Yeah. So when he came in to get him out of the store and he brings his baby in and he swears at the store, I was like, this is a family.
I'm gonna have to ask you and your friend, like, really?
No. It wasn't even that part. I just like the comment where he's like, you see, I have a baby here. It's not like I got it off the black market. I know it's Asian, but he gets on tension. I was just like, oh my God.
That one you asked about the fog thing. The fog stuff was all like on the page, but just kind of not intended. Brett, as an actor, like the day before we started shooting, he I'm trying to like lock things in with locations and figure out all the logistics, and he was like, "All right, I'm gonna sit down with the script," and he sits down with the script and he's like, "I'm not saying this. I'm gonna say this. I'm not saying this. I'm gonna say this instead." Brett just completely rewrites all of his own lines at his own whim. Sometimes goes back to the original lines. Sometimes is like, nope, this is great, I'm doing it. And in that instance, the moment that he comes into that store and has that whole moment with the employee and then goes on the rant, not any of that is scripted. Not any of it. Every single bit of it, he improvised. Well, the cursing rant that we bleeped out was different every single time, every single take. Yeah.
Do you have an unbleeped version of that you'll release at some point?
We almost put it on the blooper reel, and then we thought about it, and we were like, no, we shouldn't. It's really filthy. Like,
it's not just
even on the blooper reel, not the full episode. Like, there's nothing family friendly about that. Like, I don't know. Yeah, probably not. Unfortunately,
it would make sailors blush.
Well, even
what'd you say?
I said it would make sailors blush.
Yeah, it probably would. Brett is a very eloquent cursor. If he finds a way to and insults in general, he's just very eloquent when it comes to that stuff. It's not only that he would make sailors blush, but he would put Shakespeare to shame while making sailors blush. That was operating within the confines of Brett's forte. That scene.
I'm now curious if it's possible to put sailors to shame while making Shakespeare blush.
I feel like that's pretty much the same concept.
Well,
I feel like his canvas is profanity.
Yeah, that's not inaccurate.
Speaking of Brett.
Yes.
Yeah. Speaking of Brett, so I was watching the blooper reel, and there was a scene where they're sitting across from each other, and then the car gets dipped in the acid, and then all of a sudden you zoom in, and there's Brett trying to contain an exploding beer.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I was cutting. So that was one of the episodes that I didn't direct. So I was kind of in and out while they were shooting that. And so I was not there during that take. And I did edit that episode, but for whatever reason, I missed that because it's kind of happening off in the periphery. And I'm so glad that I found it. But everything else, like most of the shots, I was like, oh, okay, I know I'm going to grab this. This was really funny. And I just stumbled on that shot. And when I found it, I laughed so hard that I couldn't breathe for like 30 minutes straight. To me, that is the funniest thing in the entire movie because he's staying in character, man. He's like still so in character, and he's going on around him while he's like he clearly can't breathe. I don't know. It's funny, man. It was good.
What makes it better is that his co cast members didn't break character either.
Yeah.
So in comes another cast member, and they continue the dialogue, and he's over there sucking down this beer.
Yeah, that is over. Like the face that that is my favorite part of the blooper reel, personally.
I also kind of liked the improvised alternate ending to the entire series, the season. Sorry, where you've got the mysterious woman on the computer, and she's on her phone, and then she does this whole, "It's breaking up. I'll text you."
Yeah, we ultimately. So she is a comedian, is why we want her, because she's very, very, very funny, and so it's a little unfortunate that the only way you get to see her at the end of the episode is in this very serious moment, because the whole reason that we wanted her is because she's hilarious. So we asked her to like, do that kind of riff, and then we ultimately were like, it ends the series on the wrong note. We want to end it with this like hook into like this cliffhanger, and if we take away her power at the end of that, it's not as good, I guess, is the short answer, in my opinion. But I'm glad that we got that in the blooper reel, because she is very funny, and I'm glad we got a chance to show that.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you in the least. I think sometimes some of the funniest stuff that almost feels like canon is found in the blooper reel. Yeah. Some good examples would be plenty of scenes from Master of Disguise that are still quotable that didn't actually make it. Napoleon Dynamite, another example. Deleted scenes that are just as quotable. So in my head canon, that actually did happen. It just wasn't suspenseful enough to put in the the theatrical cuts.
Yeah, I can agree with that. My favorite has always been Galaxy Quest. I love the deleted scenes from that movie, but I totally understand they interrupt the flow in a way that the movie's better without them, but they are by themselves really, really funny.
I would love to see a director's cut where you can put in, the profanity laden rant. Maybe multiple cuts of them. You can put in all your deleted scenes that didn't make it. That'd be really fun to see. I really enjoyed the bit that you did, speaking of montages, of the talking to the mirror and trying to figure out what you're going to say.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, no finger guns, and then he does the finger guns again.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah. That was in one of the episodes I didn't direct. So that was all Pierce and Connor. I believe, I don't remember what is in the script at that moment, but they made the decision to kind of just wing it and let Connor just spend a good amount of time in front of the mirror coming up with stuff. And as such, what really ended up working was having this kind of goofy montage, which I agree. I really like that bit.
It's a nice way to play with a stereotype, because the way he did it was still fresh and not overdone. It's an integral part of filmmaking that's often overlooked, the collaborative aspect of the director, the writer, and the actor sort of mixing roles sometimes. Right. Good examples would be all the comedies where you've got a lot of improvised scenes, sure, but I lost what I was saying. I blame it on being sick, and I'll remember it in about 10 minutes, and I'll just interrupt the conversation.
How the montage worked.
How the montage?
Oh, well, no. Just as Joseph lost his train of thought with that, on that same episode, I was actually kind of curious to know the little bit after you did the Manuscrewed label over top of the scene, was that the little bit after that planned, or was it kind of just something you guys decided to end it like that because it had
So I will. I'm praising everybody else. This one I will pat myself on the back for. because again, that was not an episode that I was directing. And I had written that joke. I was the one who had kind of like, done the majority of the writing, like had this thing kind of in my head. And I knew that on the first episode, I wanted to end with that like stencil. And the song comes in, and like I had this image in my head for all of how that would play out. And so I was like, and I want to at least one time in the season do a fake out, like pretend that we're doing that freeze frame and not really freeze frame. Like what is the Leslie Nielsen old show that did it? But I explained this to everyone on set when they were shooting. So like they shoot that scene and they're like, every single person, I'm not kidding, every single person, Pierce, who was the director, every single actor, everyone was like, I don't understand what's happening here. I don't this joke. Austin, this isn't going to be funny. Can we just end the scene in a different way? And I was like, no, guys, this works. Will you just do it? Will you just do it? Just do the scene, everybody freeze, and then do this thing. And we did it a few times, and it took them a couple of takes to figure out what I was getting at. Okay. And I still after all of the takes that we did, everyone was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then once they saw it, they were like, okay, cool, you were right, I get it now. And mostly it's because we didn't already have. It's easy to see how that would work once you see even the first 2 episodes where you have the stencil and the hard music that comes in. Once you're like, oh, I get it now. But without that, it's hard to articulate how that stuff works in a way that communicates to everyone what you're seeing in your head. And honestly, it's a failure on my part to communicate what I was seeing in my head to them in a way that they understood. But we got it, and it works, and everyone's happy.
Yeah, we've had our fair share of miscommunication, so understandable.
Yeah. Just a bit. I liked when he slapped his head at the end. It's just like, no,
the hand slapping.
Yeah. So
then there was in the outtakes when you had multiple tries at, I think it was episode 9, when he's trying to get a hold of the the Archangel Avacyn. Mm-hmm. And then they do the freeze frame, and just continually as the guys are walking by talking about tea, they just keep laughing. Somebody starts laughing and breaks character. So I think by that point maybe they got it.
Yes, we did shoot that one later. And that joke we all that joke everyone got. But we ended up not using it for a number of reasons. We felt like we'd already kind of done it, and it was stronger the other time.
Yeah, exactly.
And because there was only 2 takes where they didn't break, completely break. And they were, the way that scene cut together, it was causing problems in having the very best performances for the rest of the scene. But I like it, and I'm glad that it works in the outtakes. But again, glad we cut it from the actual episode.
Yeah, again, it's more of a headcanon thing for a lot of the viewers. It's like, I can see why you cut it, but still I really, really enjoyed the idea behind it. Because you did the fake out, with the hand slapping, but in this case, it was the idea that they're just standing there. Yeah. Almost like Saved by the Bell style, while these 2 guys are talking about tea, and it's like, what are you guys doing just standing there?
Yeah.
I can imagine the joke even going further. It's like, I don't know. I can't control it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just felt right for the moment.
But so talking about tea, I don't know why that was so funny, but man, it cracked us all up on set. Just the 2 of them.
The tea running joke in general was really funny. I could mess up some honey lavender. I was like, we're just gonna drink it.
That was good. We're now gonna mess up any honey lavender in this house.
So I have to say that was another ad lib, but the funny thing about that ad lib is Brett set Brad up, and then killed him on while we're filming. So most of the takes, Brad just says, "Oh yeah, I could do some honey lavender," and Brett says, Oh yeah, I bet you could mess up some honey lavender or something like Brett was the one that said to mess it up. And so one time, Brad, and this is just a testament to how like Brett is really clever, and he is great at ad libs and comes up with just like ingenious stuff on the fly. Brad thinks he's being tricky and stole Brett's little ad lib so as to make himself look like the clever one, and then Brett used it to make fun of him. And I think it made the funniest take. Yeah, it was a great moment. I love that.
You can get it. It's a nice mix of off-screen chemistry, manifesting itself in a nice on-screen chemistry, but in a sort of different way, because in real life you can mess with each other. You can say things that you wouldn't say in front of mixed company.
Yeah.
And then on screen it starts to come off as still lighthearted, but sort of poking at each other.
Right.
He was able to take that off-screen chemistry and manifest it in a really nice, funny take. Mm-hmm. What about the whole? So you had the gag with the not being able to turn off the burner idea. Where did that come from?
Honestly, because I wanted to up the stakes. So when he's going to get his sister out of the shower, I wanted more just chaos. I wanted stuff going on. And further a reason to pull Jason, played by Connor, into the living room, because otherwise he's just going to slink, quickly as possible from the bathroom to the bedroom and get his sister put away and then go deal with the thing. And so I thought like a tea whistle blowing that's so loud and so annoying that it's one of those like, just take care of it. And if somebody, and we've kind of turned Steve Casey's character into this almost borderline incompetent character.
He sort of seemed like a stoner a little bit.
And honestly, part of that is Casey has this like very like California surfer vibe himself personally. Casey is not a stoner at all, and is an extremely intelligent guy. He's actually in going back for like his master's degree at the moment. He's very, very smart, but he has this like just kind of laid back vibe that does make him seem like a stoner. And we just kind of went with that for the role and gave him a lot of the dumber, lines, in a way that I think makes his character really fun. And then, again, that was an instance of like me telling Casey, just, you can't figure out how to turn off the stove, improv, go. And man, that is one instance where I'm really sad that more of the craziness he came up with didn't make it on set. But I'm glad that people into the final episode. But I'm glad people got to see it in the blooper reel, because man, he killed it in that little moment.
Tristan, did you have any questions for Austin?
I'm happy. I'm just glad he made it. I mean, I've been enjoying the banter here. I honestly have just been enjoying the show, and it's sort of like I can enjoy it from the perspective of somebody who enjoys the comedy of it. It's very well written. And I'm glad that there is as a person who doesn't play Magic, I'm glad that there is like little windows into how the game is played to give and you understand that not everybody in your audience might play the game. So I can go in there and feel comfortable watching it without knowing all the ins and outs of the game, understanding that, the jargon being tossed around has been specifically chosen because it's supposed to sound confusing and alien.
Yeah. Yeah. We specifically went for that. So there's a couple of other Magic web series, the major one being Friday Nights, and also is it Tapped Out? I'm sorry, I feel bad. The one that Masters of Modern did. I want to say it's Tapped Out, but now I'm second guessing myself, and I should know that. It's very good, regardless. But what both of those series did, I feel like, is they focused on the core group of Magic players in a way that I feel like it's inaccessible to non-Magic players. if you're super big Magic geek like me, you can watch it and go, that's it's a pun on what this creature does or stuff like that. And I wanted to make sure that we had plenty of inside Magic player jokes where Magic players can go, oh man, I totally relate to that, but in a way that isn't inaccessible to non-Magic players. Our kind of guideline for that was The League, which is a show about fantasy football.
I was going to bring that up. It seemed so much like that. And I'm also a person who doesn't play Magic the Gathering. I know nothing about Magic the Gathering, but this is a show that I can watch and not really understand it, but it's still entertaining to me and fun to watch, and I don't need to know Magic the Gathering to see it.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm so not into fantasy football. Like I don't know anything about regular football, much less fantasy football. So when I had friends that kept telling me, you got to watch this show, it's so good, check it out, I was like, nah, man, I'm so not into fantasy football. And then I finally checked it out, and you don't have to know fantasy football to enjoy that show. It's just a funny show. I'm sure there's bonuses if you are into fantasy football, but when they deal with fantasy football, and it's in a way that's just funny. And that's something that we prioritized in this show, is not alienating people that don't play.
Right. And I got to say that you did nail that. And I'd say that as somebody who does not know the game well.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I think my favorite inside reference was when you snuck in the reference to the whole loot or don't loot debate.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you.
For those who don't know what that is, you want to give a brief synopsis of what that huge wildfire of a debate was?
I don't honestly. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I totally have no idea why that became this huge debate.
Who snuck it in there?
In our script, I put it in there on purpose.
Oh, you did?
The big debate that it was online, like, gosh, I feel like for like a month, all the Magic community was talking about was, do you loot or do you not loot? Like, it was this big thing, and I have no idea why. It seems pretty definitive. Yes, you loot. Like, it can't possibly hurt you. If you have the second best card in your deck in your hand, you might as well try just in case, you know? And so basically, I think it all started with this article that I want to say was written by LSV, but it might have been.
I think it was LSV.
Yeah, it was on Channel Fireball regardless. And it was a really interesting, well-written article. But then it spurned like all of these response articles and like Reddit threads about, and like this whole big debate over this very seemingly insignificant issue. That around the time that I was writing that episode, I guess, was roughly, or hadn't been long since that debate was happening. I was like, I'll just throw this in there. It'll be fun. And I'll have her, draw, like, already have the best card and draw the second best card and do it, and it'll just be a little nod to the people that get that. And I'll just glaze over it quickly so that it's not like boring for the people that don't know what's going on.
It was really quick, and I caught it, and I was like, "Oh, what?" And then Connor's reaction was the best part of it. He like goes to stop her and gets interrupted.
Yeah.
So yeah, brilliant little reference there, but overall very accessible. And the other thing we discussed in our interview, you brought up the League, and then I brought up the Guild, because I felt it was a lot like the Guild as well. Have any of you guys seen the Guild?
Yes, all the way through several times.
Nope. I have not.
And I do not play WoW.
Yeah, it's a similar principle, which is they'll use in-game terminology, sure, but it's taking someone out of their element and then telling you their story outside of the game. No pun intended there. And that's what I enjoyed, was the humanity of the story about Connor's character in Mana Screwed, and how they early on they make you care. It's like, his mom died and he turned to magic, and he's trying to cope, and it's like, you're making me care, you're making me cry.
I didn't want to care. I came here not wanting to care.
Yeah.
You're making me care.
In my mind, as much as, and I did get into WoW in my day, but I don't think that it would be fun to watch somebody play Magic over and over. And where does it go? What are the stakes? Like, I don't care that much if somebody wins a game of Magic. I don't care, especially if you carry it over to multiple games. Like, it's fun to see like the dynamics and stuff, certainly. But as an overarching story, and the same with World of Warcraft, like you have to see people in their outside life in order to care, in order for the story to go somewhere. It has to be about that. So yeah.
Well, the way you also have to make the story is something that's more of a broader audience than a select, because when you talk about the game of Magic, when you can get the audience that is just like, for me, I don't mind watching a game of Magic because I'll see things and realize, oh, I can do that, or that's a neat little trick that you can do. Oh, I didn't even think of that. Like, it broadens the way you think of it. But you really have to be someone that's invested in it, you know, someone that really does want to know that. So for your way you wrote your story was fantastic because you were doing for more of a general populace than your select group. For
sure. And you know, not that we couldn't have made a show with a narrower focus, but I've always been, I don't know, I'm going to get into stupid theoretical second, bear with me. But I've always, you know, I have these friends who are in the film industry. I feel like the majority of the people that are in the film industry are really into like artsy stuff, you know, Nicholas Winding Refn and Paul Thomas Anderson. And these are the filmmakers and way more obscure than those guys type stuff. And I think that those films are great. And I also know a lot of people, not in the film industry as much, that are into just very popcorn flicks, you know, the like Transformers and, you know, Prince of Persia and like just, you know, generic action stuff. Mm-hmm. And I have always admired much more the filmmakers like James Cameron, like Steven Spielberg, like David Fincher, Christopher Nolan, who make films that are both critically acclaimed and have broad appeal, that reach as much of an audience as possible, but don't do so by dumbing it down and making just kind of a mediocre movie, that manage to appeal to both groups at the same time. And so it just appeals to me more to make something that is enjoyed by as large of an audience as possible, instead of just trying to make it for one little niche group, I guess.
I think that's a great goal. That's the way all films should be made.
I think, yeah.
A good majority of them, at least.
No, I had to think about it, but I think I do agree with you. I think I think that it would be better. A good filmmaker, in my mind, makes a film that is experienced by everyone the same. And that doesn't mean, like, if a film is great to one person and totally inaccessible to another, then you have made a film that is more narrow and doesn't appeal to as many people. And I don't know. I think that it's cooler to make a film that two different people from two different walks of life can both look at and both experience the same movie, I guess. Sorry. Philosophical over. We can go back to more fun stuff.
That's well put.
Yeah, well put. You're being too agreeable, though. We argue here a lot.
Well, let me just say, because I thought as long as this is less philosophical and more fun. But you were starting to talk about the relationship between director and writer and actors with comedy specifically, and two films that really affected the way I look at comedy really early on were Tommy Boy and Black Sheep. Have you guys seen both of those movies?
Oh, yeah.
Many times over.
Good. Because Chris Farley and David Spade are freaking hysterical.
They were my favorite duo.
Oh, man, they're so good. I wish that they had done more movies together before Chris Farley died. Yeah. It is sad for the world that they didn't. But Tommy Boy was a solid script and like had compelling characters and dynamic relationships and legitimately funny jokes that were funny in the script. And then the icing on that cake was two really fantastic comedians who made everything funnier and took a movie that if you take them out of that movie, you would end up with a very mediocre, film, I guess. Sure, it would be fine. It's watchable from beginning to end, but not remarkable. Adding the two of them made it remarkable. Conversely, Black Sheep took, whatever, like somebody wrote words on a page, I guess. and then took two funny comedians and expected them by themselves to make it funny. And the result is a far inferior movie, in my opinion, to Tommy Boy. Tommy Boy is a classic, and Black Sheep is, if you're a fan of Chris Farley and David Spade, it's totally worth watching, but not to the same.
There are several scenes in Black Sheep that I'll return to over and over.
Yeah.
But I think I get what you mean. On the whole, I don't tend to return to the story as much.
Right. It had a story. It had a big. I don't know.
The plot line and the goal weren't as human as in Tommy Boy.
Yeah. And the characters aren't as lovable as Tommy Boy. The scenes are funny, but the characters aren't. You don't care about them as much. And to me, that's always kind of been the relationship. Too many filmmakers, I think, rely too heavily on just casting funny people. And I think that it's your job as a writer to write as funny of a script as humanly possible that could be done without Chris Farley and David Spade and would still be funny, would still be fine.
And then you get Chris Farley and David Spade and they funny it up.
Yeah, and then you bring in the big guns, and you've made something exceptional. And I certainly don't want to equate Mana Screwed to Tommy Boy, but that's what I was hoping to do. Is I tried to write as funny of a script as I could, and then Brett and Connor are so good and they're so funny, and a lot of the other guys, Casey, Brock, Atsuko. Sam, who plays the roommate, man, we had some really funny people. Andy Dick, obviously, is very funny.
Speaking about all these people, I don't know if it was asked by Joseph in the 5-question interviews. Like, I was kind of curious as like the relationship amongst these. Is these people you just kind of got the word out to them and met and hung out with, or like is over half of them actually people you see day-to-day basis?
So Pierce, who is the DP, he and I work on almost every project together. Brett, I have known since roughly college, and we've worked on numerous projects together. Brett, who plays Garrett, the brother-in-law, and he lives in Atlanta now, so we did have to fly him out, but and so I don't see him like on a daily basis, but we've worked on a lot of projects together. Connor, who plays Jason, the lead, was the lead in a feature that I shot a little while back that is currently in post-production, will come out soon, hopefully. It also has Brett in it, and was also shot by Pierce. So it's a lot of the same people as Mana Screwed, actually. Brad and Casey are both literally just guys that I play Magic with.
Nice.
I like Brad has become, a very, very close friend who I hang out with all the time, in particular, and, taught me EDH and that kind of stuff. But I met him playing Magic. I met Casey playing Magic. I met Glenn, who plays the employee, playing Magic. Who else of note? Brock is a friend of mine that I've known relatively since I moved to LA. He plays the villain at the end.
Oh, Dax.
Yeah, Dak.
What about Crispin?
Crispin is Andrew Bowser of internet notoriety. He and I are part of the same Facebook group, and I've worked on a couple of projects with him over the years. I don't want to say we I like him, and he's a very cool guy. We don't like hang out or anything, but when we were putting this project together, I showed Connor and Brett. I was like, this guy, I think that I can convince him to do it, and man, he needs to be in this. Because and I showed them his weird Satanist videos, and yeah, he's great. He's fantastic. Sam, who plays the roommate and is one of my favorite characters, I asked one person to do it, and they were uncomfortable appearing in their underwear.
We would have done it.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. And then I'm talking like we were putting together other shoots, and I completely forgot to cast that role. And was having trouble with availability or people unwilling to be in their underwear, or just pick a problem. Like, I just couldn't find anybody to do it. And I had just done another shoot with Sam for Loot Crate. He was in the Loot Crate Guardians theme video. And I thought that he was really good. And I was like, gosh, I wonder if he'd do it. I'm just going to ask him. And he said yes. And man, I am so glad, because I feel like you see this in behind the scenes things where they're like, well, originally we wanted this person, but I'm so glad that we ended up getting this person. You're like, yeah, sure you are. But really, truly, I don't think that anyone could have done that role as well. I love his performance in that role. He's so over the top and goofy, and it works. I really like the dynamic that he brought to the table for that episode and that character.
He did a good job when I just absolutely hated him. Just his entire character is such a man-child that's unlikable, and that's how he did a good job.
Yeah. 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 I love another of my favorite moments in the blooper reel, honestly, because it's so genuine, is that moment where Pierce and I are behind the camera talking about the problem of seeing the Krusty in the frame, and Sam thinks that we're talking about him being Krusty. Talking about Krusty the Clown. I love it, because it's so genuine. His like, are they talking about me?
So let's move on to Magic the Gathering, because I did get a question from one of our listeners.
Wait, move on to? Haven't we been technically on Magic the Gathering?
Well, we've been on Mana Screwed specifically, and this was an actual general Magic the Gathering question for Malachi and myself and Austin. So I don't know when the last time was that Austin and Malachi played F&M, but that's what the question pertains to.
Okay.
When was the last time you guys played F&M?
When was the last time I played F&M? I feel bad saying this, because I don't want it to appear like I pretend to be this big Magic player, and I have
You're a phony.
I'm not.
Hey, everybody, this guy's a phony.
Before Mana Screwed started coming out and took over my life, I'm not kidding. I would go 3 times a week to play Magic drafts on Friday. Sometimes 2 different ones on Friday, and then normally either Saturday or Tuesday or both. However, when Mana Screwed started coming out, I got so busy and just was working around the clock. And I forced myself. I was like, I've got to go. I've got to promote the show. That's at least what I told my girlfriend.
Right.
And so I would go every Friday. But then after the final episode came out, I finally I don't want to. I had a little more free time, but I'm still kind of busy catching up on other work, and so my kind of. All right, I'm going to spend the time with my girlfriend to make it up for her for all of the months that I've been ignoring her. And I have not been in the few weeks since Mana Screwed season 1 ended. So the last time that I went was the Friday that we released the final episode.
What was the F&M promo at that time?
What was the FNM promo?
Because I know it was a whole bunch of crap, and then this month,
it was crap. It was not a good card. That's why I don't remember it.
Yeah, this month we've got Fatal Push. Malachi, what about you? Have you done FNM ever?
I've got you guys beat because what are you saying? What is FNM?
It's Friday Night Magic. It's where you go to your game store on Friday and play.
I'm sorry, he thought you were talking about something a little NSFW.
No, okay. I'm not. Okay, Tristan, thanks.
You're welcome.
You broke me.
I did.
Mission accomplished.
It's our mission every episode.
The reason I brought it up is because I got a question from a good friend of mine, Timothy, who's actually been on the podcast in the past. He works at my local store and went to the school that I teach at. And he wanted to know what we thought, well, probably me and Austin, about the idea that after this month, they're no longer doing promos for FNM. They're replacing it with double-sided foil tokens.
Oh,
and I think it's dumb. Okay. What do you think, Austin? Counterpoint?
It's dumb. On the one hand, I do think double-sided tokens is cool. Maybe I'm in the minority, but I do think that's cool. But I don't want a token instead of a foil Fatal Push with a different art. Are you kidding?
Right.
And I remember when they did Path to Exile?
Yeah.
So mostly it's crappy cards, but it's still fun to get them. But every once when they do that valuable card, don't take that away from me. That's not fair.
They're sort of accounting for it and doing other things, like your buy a box is now like a little pack of cards. It's that's not the same thing.
Yeah, so I didn't hear about that. They're making it a little pack of cards instead of
it's sort of like the standard showdown idea.
Oh.
Well, yeah, it's been a couple months because I've been poor, so I can't afford to do Friday Night Magic. And if I would go to the shop, it'd probably be to play EDH because I already have a couple decks and I can't keep up with standard. So
Malachi, you just bought a computer.
That's why I can't go.
And you went a little LARPing trip.
I did not buy my computer. I built this SOB and she is beautiful.
But the parts weren't donated to you at Goodwill.
Exactly.
But they did take up all of his savings.
Yeah, so that's why I can't.
I'm just giving you a hard time. That's what I do every week.
Not that I didn't want to do it.
In your life, a new computer or a standard deck. Let's be real.
Standard deck. Duh.
Of course you would, Joseph.
Hey,
His magic is life.
Yeah.
It is.
Give him a raise. Increase the magic.
Increase
Thanks
the
for
magic.
the reference to 2 years ago, Alex.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll bring up those references.
I started it.
Yeah, so there's our answer to Timmy. It's dumb. And I see what they're doing. They're trying to shift away from competitive FNM and make it more about casual players who want the tokens, but the casual players don't want the tokens. The casual players want the good cards. And they're like, well, we're going to focus more on Standard Showdown on Saturdays. And I'm like, the competitive players aren't going to Standard Showdowns. They're not even going to FNM. They're traveling and going to PPTQs and GPTs and Grand Prix and all of this. That's where they're going. So I'm obviously not very passionate about this, and I don't feel strongly at all.
On the other hand, though, I'm not going to just to play devil's advocate. I'm with you. I would rather get the better promos, but I really do like those double-sided zombie tokens from Shadows. Those were pretty.
Wasn't that like a pre-release thing?
Yeah, it was just like a freebie thing. Like, here, you get this extra.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed that pre-release and that set just in general. I'm sad to see that rotate.
Man. I agree. I was done. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh man.
No, I was just gonna say, because taking it to the promos being tokens, tokens are situational. It depends on how you're playing your deck. So versus a card that you could utilize in multiple decks.
Okay, I'm raising my hands like I'm in church. Keep talking.
Raise it.
So
keep preaching.
Yeah, I think it's more of just a cop out because they don't want to release cards as a promo, just to kind of take that option.
You know
away?
how much money it costs for Wizards of the Coast to print a $10,000 card? The same as it costs to print a token.
Yeah.
So it's no skin off their back to do so.
Yeah, well, how about for the value of cards? Because if they make a promo of a card, it's usually not as valuable if you only get it out of the pack.
A promo's not going to drop the value of a card. It requires a huge print run to even affect the price of a card. Back when I did Draw 4 podcast, we talked at length about that with Ruben Bressler from Magic Mike's, about the fact that Tarmogoyf has been reprinted so many times, and yet the price has not changed.
Okay. I don't know. See, I don't know the ins and outs of it like that. That's the way I would view it with the little information I have.
In fact, it might even drive up demand. Austin, what was your thought?
Yes. I agree.
Yes. Okay, so that's my thoughts on that matter. And then right as we're closing up, Austin, we mentioned D&D, and I saved it for last. When we did our interview, I was like, we're going to push this to the live stream. I want you to share with us the favorite D&D character that you have played since you started playing.
Oh, well, okay. It's got, I mean... But I've only played 2 characters, so...
okay, how about if it's not the character that you played, maybe your favorite character you've played alongside?
Oh, no, it's one of my characters. Like,
okay, that's
someone else's character is more of my favorite than my own character. That's crazy. So I am currently in the campaign that I play more often and love the most, if I had to pick. I play a Bugbear Cleric. Which I purposely chose because of the kind of juxtaposition of playing a Bugbear Cleric. And I love him, man. So my first character that I rolled was this like chaotic neutral Duergar dwarf, constantly like picking fights with people and stealing stuff and doing whatever he wants. And I was like, all right, I'm going to learn how to play a healer because every team needs a healer, and, why not? And it seems funny to me to have this big, brutish healer. And, man, I love it, man. I love playing this very wise character that's always, like, kind of trying to, like, steer the rest of the group. I've kind of become the voice of reason in the group dynamics as everyone plays. And it's just, honestly, it's way more fun than I thought that it would be. I've kind of always heard that playing the cleric is like the boring role, and I love it. It's a lot of fun.
You can have a lot of fun with clerics and just healing types in general. Mm-hmm. I once played a very hot-headed healer that just anytime there's a disagreement with NPC, he would just like get into it and be like, "No, look, you are a douchebag, and you're going to let us cross this bridge."
See, I'm the complete opposite. I'm a full-fledged life cleric. And I even had, like, our DM took us on, because there's this one spell, I forget what it is, but I have it, and it allows you to ask your deity 3 questions. Mm-hmm. And I only had 2 questions that I needed to ask. So for the third one, I was like, is it okay to take a life for the greater good? In order to save lives, I must take a life. Is that all right? And so our DM had her take me on this like spiritual quest and the rest of it as well to try to answer this question, because it's supposed to be a yes or no question. And my DM was like, what the fuck are you doing to me? And so almost every time we get into a fight, my whole team groans because there's a spell that clerics have where you can basically like, no one wants to fight anymore. Everyone's happy again. And it ends the fight. And I'm constantly, every time someone attacks us, I'm like, brother, do you really want to do this? We really don't want to hurt you. Like constantly trying, like in the middle of fights, being like, all right, guys, we're going to stop attacking you now, but you have to stop attacking us. And of course we all get, beat up some more. And then we have to, and my whole team, like, they've kind of gotten used to it, so they're no longer like groaning and like, "Ugh, he has to do this thing again." They're just kind of like, they appreciate the dynamic, I guess, that my character adds, while constantly like nullifying the fights that they want to get into. So it's been fun.
So a Jedi mind trick that doesn't always work.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Do we really have to fight about it? And like, it's a game where mostly everybody wants to fight. And really, I personally want to fight, but I'm trying to play my character well. And I'm like, lay down your... And sometimes they do. And sometimes we get some good information out of it and whatever. And sometimes my teammates will kill them after they lay down their weapons, and that's no good.
That's very honorable.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a difficult type of character to play because of the mindset of hack and slash just being driven into your mind. But there's such a wide variety of healer types you can play. There's the pacifist. Let's talk this out. You know, there's the bloodthirsty. There's maybe the dwarf cleric type, where one day you show back at your home church and they're like, yeah, we don't mind that you killed a whole camp of bandits. We just don't like that you did it at nighttime. It just depends on your church.
Yeah.
That's a true story, actually. I got in trouble.
You got in trouble because you did it at night.
Because we took him by surprise and didn't give him a chance to fight back. As I hit the entire tent and set it on fire.
Oh, goodness gracious. Wow. No, I'm playing a Cleric of the Raven Queen in one of my campaigns, so he kind of subverts the trope of asking the moral question about death. Because as soon as somebody says, well, is it right that we kill these people? His response is always, there's no right or wrong. They're going to die. We just get to be the ones to send them to their god. That's an honor.
I've been rewatching Daredevil, and that's exactly the same moral dilemma that he has with Stick. Which is like Stick's like, he's gonna die. There's nothing you can do about it and stuff like that. But that's another podcast. You know, I've always got to dedicate podcasts to my binge watching.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think.
Sorry. So you asked for a favorite story, and I have one. I want to share.
This is going to be our closing note. Is his favorite D&D story? He's been playing for a year now.
Yeah, not even a year. Honestly, it started this year. I'm very new to D&D, but I'm very, very excited about it and play it too much. In the campaign with the Bugbear Cleric, we were running, what was it, Horde of the Dragon Queen, and we're in this like cave underneath a castle or something. And we find the exit and the way that we're supposed to go, but there's one more room that we need to check. And so we go in, and there's a treasure chest in there. And to clarify, to make it clear, one time we had gone into this other cavern, and there was this giant, like, I forget what it's called, but monster that eats people living on the ceiling. And so every time we're in this cave, the first thing that everyone does is look at the ceiling. And in this room, we did not look at the ceiling. Because we've seen the pots of poison gas that were hanging above us. And we go over and open the chest, and immediately it sets off the trap, and all of these pots full of poison gas drop and shatter. And the only two that it affected were myself and the wizard. Yeah, everybody else, saved on their con, I think, saving throw. But the wizard and I became poisoned and hallucinated that everyone else was an enemy. So I'm trying to play my character correctly, and so is the wizard. And so we're doing running or fighting or whatever. And at one point, I turned on Spirit Guardians and then melded into the floor, into stone in the floor.
Horrible.
So everybody in the party is taking all of that horrible amounts of damage every turn. And then we had a Rope of Entanglement.
There's a reason Spirit Guardians is a 3rd level spell.
Yeah. And they managed to get the wizard tied up, and our DM is like, all right, what would you do? You think that these are monsters and they are attacking you. What do you do? And I'm like, well, I would cast Spirit Guardians, I'm surrounded. All of my friends are gone. That's what I do. They got the wizard tied up in the ropes of entanglement, but not like fully. I guess he was kind of like wriggling his way out of them, and he managed to cast Fireball. And between Spirit Guardians and the Fireball, it killed everyone. Everyone died. And I mean knocked unconscious, except for myself and the rogue had been like, they had finally incapacitated me. So I was unconscious when the fireball went off, and I completely died.
Yeah. Wait, what knocked you unconscious?
Them fighting me, like they finally brought me down. They
pummeled
something
you?
About the hallucination caused me to unmeld out of the stone and run for the lake or something.
Okay.
And so they had tackled me and had knocked me to submission, and I was unconscious.
Okay.
When the
I was
fire,
worried you were telling me that a spell had knocked you unconscious. Like, spells can't do that unless it's specifically designed to knock people unconscious.
So me and another party member actually died in the encounter, where exclusively we were fighting each other, and that was wild. And they managed to get us brought back to life, but it was very scary for a moment when we thought that we literally killed each other.
I've got some similar stories to that in some games, as does Tristan. I would love to have you on again next time there's an excuse to do so. So we can just talk more D&D, as well as talk more Mana Screwed, as you are in the process of starting to write season 2.
Yeah. Connor, who's the lead in Mana Screwed, is also very into D&D.
Well, I'm trying to get him on here as well, so maybe we'll bring that up with him.
Awesome, cool.
As well.
I think I'm sure he would love talking about D&D with you guys. I'm sure he's been playing for years and years. I'm sure he has way more and better stories than I have.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us on the live stream, Austin, and I hope you had a good time overall with the interview and the podcast episode and everything.
Yeah, you guys are a blast. Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun talking about the show and Magic and D&D and just fun stuff with you guys.
You've got an open invitation to come back anytime you want to.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you. It's been a blast. I would love to take you up on that.
All right, this is the part where we say goodnight, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Good night, Malachi.
Hashtag goodbye.
Goodbye.
You have a picture in your head of what someone looks like if you don't really know who the actor is.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it was a character,
Yeah.
And then you know who the actor is, and then you rewatch it, and it's like they recast the role all of a sudden. because you see them through a different lens, you know? Thanks to the following patrons for making this video possible. Support us at patreon.com/player4podcast.